Live? Alright, sick. I am, in fact, live. Let's get it. It was nice while it lasted, that Pokemon Emerald Rogue stuff. But I feel like I can only do that for so long. You know? Just wasn't feeling it anymore. To be quite frank, I don't know what it is. My stomach feels a little bit uneasy. Not exactly sure why. But anyways. Let's launch the game. And it's... Dude. See that. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna try to mentally prepare myself for the spiel I'm about to give. At least somewhat. You know? What's going on here? Something ain't quite right. Alright. Let's get it. I'm going into my Punished arc if Trump wins. I've been on my Punished arc for like 2 years, and I am doubling down on that arc right now. Holy shit. Okay, I guess I should just get started now, while it's fresh in everybody's mind. You know? There's some people I recognize. The presidential debate happened yesterday evening, right? I watched it live as part of a watch party. CNN was being a little bit stingy with the rebroadcasting, as they are known to do. So what do I think about it? Guys, I'm not even gonna lie. It was pain. It was agony, even. I cannot fucking believe that was only 2 hours. It felt like so much longer. Dude, Biden is so fucking old. He can't do shit. He can barely stand up. That man looks like a stiff breeze could push him over. And even when he was like trying to make a point, he was slurring, he was stuttering, he was non sequituring, he was introducing all sorts of like wacky shit. And like, I think at this point the coherence doesn't even. If the debate was a transcript, I think Biden actually won, but Americans can't comprehend reading. That's fucking copium, and you know it, dude. There is nothing that could have saved Biden there from the fucking disaster that ensued after that. The transcript doesn't make any goddamn sense. Look, Trump was incoherent. He lied. He dodged every question and talked about immigration a lot, and he alluded to insurrectionary intent. But he can fucking talk. All right, like he can get up there and talk and project confidence and charisma. Biden doesn't have jack shit going for him in the debate stage, right? The substance, like even where Biden was talking about substance, the substance didn't matter. It didn't even matter if Biden was saying something good, which half the time he fucking wasn't. He missed every single layup, flubbed every single rhetorical point, and he won the race to the bottom. This debate, more than any debate I've literally ever seen, was a race to the bottom, and Biden won that race handily. And that's not what I want to happen from that. That's not what anybody needs to happen from this. It pains me to say this. Fucking Hillary would have put up a better fight than Biden in the debate against Trump. And I'm losing my concentration because I'm talking about this stuff. Can't really kind of hard to do that while driving, but I'm trying, guys. Look, you put me up on that debate stage, somebody with no formal media training, and I will dog walk Trump every day of the week. Look, anybody defending Biden here, that's fucking copium. But I have a whole thing, like, I have a couple of notes on, like, what I thought was most important to highlight, and shit. There was basically no redeeming factor for Biden in this debate. It was that bad. And I think if you pretend otherwise, like, even like, nothing could make Biden look good in that debate. Except for maybe literal cocaine. But, you know, we can't time travel, so it's that's what's up. You get to a point where I can safely talk here, and then I'll keep going. Twister DX, I recognize them. Recognize Maverick. Ow. And I'm driving like shit, but that's to be expected. I haven't played this game in a while. Oh, what? That was a very small wall. Such a washed player. Yeah, I am washed. I haven't played this game in like a couple months. Believe it or not. Alright, here we go. Excuse me, gentlemen. You know, theoretically, I should remember this track, because I've played it a few times. Okay, there we go, back in it. No longer washed. Okay, never mind, I'm washed again. Alright. How many tracks are there actually? In CTGP, I believe there are 216 tracks. Fourth, not awful for a first race. 216, yeah, plus 2 secret ones. There are 2 secret tracks as well. So there's 216 that you can actually pick on the track select screen, and then there are 2 secret ones that you have to, I believe, go into the menu and change some settings or something to be able to pick. But anyways, look, back to the debate, the presidential debate that happened last night. Look, Biden missed all the layups. He won the race to the bottom. How long did it take to get to know all the sneaky cuts and specialties? I still don't know all of them, so. Even when Biden was talking about substance, the substance wasn't good either. When they were talking about anything real, like, Biden was just ranting about some fucking neoliberal hogwash. He was talking about, like, you know, marginal increase for this, slightly increasing the benefits cap. He was talking about, like, fentanyl and the southern border. Nobody fucking cares. Like, what people need, what resonates with people in debates, is people need a narrative. People need a populist narrative. This is why populists are so fucking successful in politics, is because if you tell people that there are powers that be that fucking hate them, which is true, and you say, look, I'm offering solutions and policies to address that problem, you just gotta vote for me, we'll take the fight to the big corporations or whatever, that resonates with people. Not this fucking nerd, like, liberal bullshit of, oh, the system works, you know, we just need some tweaks around the edges. That has never resonated with anybody. And of course, it didn't help that he had absolutely zero energy in saying literally anything that he said on that debate stage, you know? He took the bait, too, like you know, as far as his rhetorical performance, right? Like, Trump was out there, he was setting up a number of rhetorical baits for certain talking points. Biden took the bait, hook, line, and sinker for every single question, walked right into every single trap that Trump set. This was this was a god-awful debate performance from Joe Biden, even irrespective of his age. Oh. Ugh. But that's enough about Biden specifically, right? Let's not pretend that the hosts and the moderators. Remember that video I showed on the question, are the American presidents getting old? Yeah, I distinctly remember that, and I have more to say about the age of certain candidates later. But right now I want to talk about, like, the hosts of the debate and the moderators. This was a debate hosted on CNN. Like I said, they're very protective with the rebroadcasting rights and whatever. That's a different issue. But ultimately, they, at the beginning of the debate, or like going into the debate, they marketed it as, this is going to be like a proper presidential debate. We're going to have live fact checking, and we're going to have mic control. That means that, like, if anybody says something incorrect, we're going to correct them as they're saying it. We're going to interject and say, no, that's actually wrong. This is what actually is the case, is what the statistics actually show. And if somebody goes over time or speaks out of turn, they won't be able to, because we'll cut their mic off. And I've never heard a bigger fucking joke in my life. No fact checking, not even remotely. They didn't use that? Yeah, not even once. Or actually, excuse me, they did use it all of one time. I think there was exactly one time where the CNN host cut off somebody's mic, and it was Biden. That towards the end, the debate was so painful that CNN realized that, like, the only way to give Biden any sort of leeway is to fucking cut him off early and get him to speak as little as possible, because the man sounds like he's dying in front of us. They never interjected. They never fucking fact-checked anything that they said. They let Trump go on, like, 82 different unhinged rants. You know, Trump went off topic literally every single time he had the opportunity to. There were so many layups. Not just that the moderators teed up for Biden, but that Trump teed up for him. He flubbed every single one. And the moderators are partly complicit with that. And this, honestly, this debate, because debates matter, believe me, even though debates seem silly sometimes, they matter for influencing public opinion. This debate is going to single-handedly sink the Biden campaign. In fact, in 2 hours, the Biden campaign went from, like, to, like, oh, it's Jover. It's fully fucking Jover. Trump is going to win the 2024 election if Biden remains the candidate, and it's going to be all the Democratic Party's fault. I know, like, there have been a few people, a few liberal pundits and whatever, who are trying to spin this and be like, oh no, actually, jujitsu move, it's the Republicans' fault that the Democrats are fucking incompetent. No, you guys aren't getting out of this one this time, alright? I think everyone knew Trump would destroy Biden in a debate. Yeah, everyone pretty much did know that. But, like, here's the thing, right? Like, this was libs coping hard after the debate. Yeah, they really are, and it's fucking insufferable, because, like, this wasn't, for once, this wasn't in any way the Republicans' fault. Even a lot of things that, like, the Democrats have done poorly could be partly attributed to Republicans being competent at political subterfuge or whatever. Even when the Democrats still maintain the majority of the blame, Republicans actually had completely zero hand in the Democrats doing this. This was a completely unforced error, and it was the most painful unforced error I've ever seen in my life, because it's been decades in the making. You know, through the primary debates where the Democrats, like, suppressed opposition in 2020 when they didn't learn from their mistakes about running a milquetoast centrist with no charisma and no sauce in 2016 when they suppressed the primary debate again in 2024. Like, dog, this is entirely the Democrats' fault. They had so many opportunities, literally thousands of opportunities, to do this shit right, to get a progressive on the ballot, to get somebody at least with some charisma. For fuck's sake, Gavin Newsom would have been better. And like, to shore up the weaknesses of Biden as a candidate by literally not having Biden as the candidate, you know? And they ignored every single one. In fact, they shot themselves in the foot whenever they had the chance. The Democratic Party was so committed to ousting progressives that they basically made sure that there were no charismatic options available outside of Joe Biden. And even then, they could have picked somebody. Jesus Christ, even Kamala Harris would have been better. And at this rate, they actually might still pick somebody else. This debate was so bad that, like, network TV outlets and Democratic Party strategists and, like, party insiders, higher-ups in the party, not even on the condition of anonymity, were saying, holy shit, Joe Biden needs to drop out of the race. Like, we need to just replace Biden with anybody else that we can find because he got dog-walked. Even most of the resist libs realized, like, oh, this is so bad. Like, Biden didn't look good. You know? It took some real fucking special kind of party ops to pretend that Biden in any way had a respectable showing in that debate. And for Christ's sake, now we're actually entering, like, Dianne Feinstein like levels of elder abuse here. Like, Jesus Christ, if this is the condition that Biden is in, like, how has the Democratic Party let the problem get this bad? And I mean, that's a rhetorical question because we all kind of know how, because the Democratic Party is a party of liberals who don't want to do jack shit. You know, they just want to stay the course and trust the process and whatever. Jesus Christ. Let me get I think there's a certain section I want to get past, then I'll continue on some of the stuff that I wrote down for myself at the very least. This isn't scripted. I'm still going off the cuff. There were just a couple of beats that I wanted to make sure I remembered. Okay, good section, good section. This is why I say the strategy for Democrats is like, lose on purpose. I've said at several points in the past that the Democratic Party loves to lose. Their strategy is one of malicious incompetence. They don't care if they lose because in their minds that, like, nothing is ever, like, no change is ever possible because of, like, oh, we found the liberal world order. Guys, we did. We solved politics. History is over. You know? I can't believe I still made that. Because of shit like this, right? Like, as I was saying earlier, like, as I said earlier, the Democrats had every opportunity and like every chance and every motive even to correct their mistake here, and they didn't do it. But, like, they didn't do it, and they knew. See, we when we watched the debate, right? I didn't fully know how bad it was. Even when Joe Biden was senile, I was like, okay, he can still read off a teleprompter from the limited amount of time that we had seen him in press conferences. But, like, holy shit, we got a window into how far Joe Biden's decline has really advanced. And that was just us for 2 hours on one night. The Democratic Party has known this for fucking years. They knew this the whole time, and they still decided, nope, Joe Biden's the dude. You know, he's the candidate. Anything better than the two most famous grandpas on TV for hours? They're not even the two most famous grandpas. Bernie Sanders is a more famous grandpa, and he's got more sauce in him at the ripe old age of fucking, I don't know, how old is he, 80? Not that he should run for president. I think he's fine where he is, actually. But he's becoming more incoherent by the day. They both are. It's just, like, Joe Biden is just reaching the bottom way quicker than Trump is. You know? Like, I had no idea how right I would be when I said this was going to be a race to the bottom. But Joe Biden, this is no longer a race to the bottom. The race to the bottom is done. Joe Biden won. He is way more in a state of mental decline than Trump is. And this isn't the only front on which Democrats have failed, right? They're trying to pitch this, right, as democracy versus fascism, right? And they keep invoking January 6th. They keep invoking January 6th and the insurrection on the Capitol. What did they fucking do after the insurrection on the Capitol? They did fuck all. They had so much leeway and opportunity and justification to mass arrest every Republican in the fucking House of Representatives for fucking treason and insurrection against the United States and trying to subvert the Constitution, and they didn't do it. Because they're liberals. This is the liberal abstemiousness. That, like, fucking, it is the classic obligation and duty of liberals to cede ground to fascists whenever and wherever they have the opportunity to, and then pretend like they're in any way a better option. You know how I was talking about the other time? I was talking about the Macron's party in France, the LREM party, and how, like, the choice that people are being presented with, or that people had been presented with in France, is like, you can either have the fascists or you can have the circumstances which created the fascists, and like they will not offer any meaningful change. That's the Democratic Party right now. That's what's up. That's what they're offering us. Vote for genocide to stop fascism? Yeah, legitimately, that's all the Democratic Party is capable of like, giving us. Jesus fucking Christ. Meanwhile, like, the Democratic Party views progressives as a bigger threat than fucking fascists. And here's the thing, from their perspective, they're right to do so because they're not a democratic, small d, party. They are a liberal party, which means that they always defer to the interests of private capital, and they will always prioritize those interests over the interests of minorities and over the interests of democratic democratic norms, institutions, and like democratic spirit. And like, when liberals have to choose between social democrats and socialists and fascists, they will choose fascists every single fucking time. If that's anything that we can learn from this, it's that. You know, because while they were doing this, like, this debate came immediately after the election that happened in New York District 16, where Jamal Bowman unfortunately lost to George Latimer. The DCCC sandbagged him. The Democratic Party at an institutional level made the conscious policy choice to sandbag progressives while doing nothing to stop the advance of fascism. Like I said, they could have fucking mass arrested Republican politicians, and they would have been in their rights to do so. They would have been justified in doing so. They should still do it. They still theoretically have time to do that. But they won't, because they're a bunch of pussies. And they would rather lose. And again, like I said, they defer to the interests of private capital, and private capital loves fascists. This honestly is probably worse than the decision to run Hillary Clinton against Trump in 2016. Like, this went worse and quicker than that campaign did. Ignoring the fact that USA is very important for Europe, the world, this is hilarious. Starting to fall in love with Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart's great. I love Jon Stewart. Him and John Oliver. But yeah, Jon Stewart is definitely, if there's one American commentator on like mainstream TV that I would recommend to people, it'd be Jon Stewart. Christ, dude. And you know, by the way, as soon as I walked away from the debate, I was like, fucking hell. The American Arjen Lubach. Yeah, that's that guy that you recommend to me every now and again, right? That's a Dutch talk show guy. I agree. I think that's kind of like that. But as soon as the debate finished, I was like, shit, here's what's going to happen, because I know exactly, I know exactly how this is going to play out. We've seen it in fucking 2 elections before, already. In 2016, when the Democrats lost the election to Donald Trump, when Hillary Clinton lost the election, they blamed the left and they blamed minorities for not voting for Hillary. And what do you think is going to happen in 2024 when the same fucking shit happens when they lose this election? They even did it in 2020. They actually started blaming the left and minorities when they thought they might be about to lose. In covering their bases, like, that's what they did. They're going to gaslight you into believing that somehow it was the left and minorities who are at fault for Joe Biden not being elected, even though the Democratic Party treated him in a way that's borderline elder abuse, trying to get this fucking clearly dementia-riddled 80-something-year-old man to hobble up on the debate stage and say something when they know that he's just going to fall apart. Sometimes literally. Like, Jesus. He literally couldn't keep his mouth shut. I think the USA is good for the world. Regardless of whether or not the US is good for the world, we're important. The US has done unspeakable things, but the US is such a big country and such a powerful country that we are important. I think that's an objectively correct thing to say, you know? Like, whether or not you load it up with the propaganda of us being the leader of the free world, or whether you just phrase it as us being a global hegemon, clearly the US is on top of the pile. So what we, like, the politics of the United States matter for basically everywhere else as well. Yeah, third place. Honest to God, this debate, after watching that debate, I'm prepared to lock the fuck in, right? Because this is gonna... I'm gonna have to get a lot more serious with the shit going on in my life after the shit show the Democratic Party has hoisted upon us. I'm working on a certification for IT. I'm gonna get it information tech certification. I'm working on that right now. I'm trying to grow the stream in some way, not necessarily like directly in terms of viewership. I have to approach it more as a statistical or like social scientific kind of thing. And I have some notes to that effect. I'm gonna try to be politically active and you know, given that the U.S. is probably going to be controlled by Republicans in the near future, if Democrats don't pull something incredible out of their ass, I'm going to have to try to not die in the process of doing all that, because, you know, we know what fascists think of socialists and people in the queer community. My dad said that Joe Biden was supposed to be a bridge president for the Democrats and was supposed to buy time for them to find someone else. I don't know what they were thinking. Here's the thing. Your dad was right. That's what the Democrats said. In 2020, when Joe Biden was elected, part of how they tried to placate the younger voters and the left that's within their base is by saying, like, look, guys, don't worry. You voted for Joe Biden once. You won't have to again. He's going to be a one-term president. We're going to get somebody younger and more energetic and more charismatic for the next election. And you know what? People fucking believe them. And you know what? Partially that's on us, because we should know better than the fucking believe the Democratic Party on anything, right? Especially when they're, like, promising that something will change. Like, are you kidding me? This is the status quo party. Yeah, like, ultimately, your dad, like, when people say shit like that, they're right, because that's what the Democratic Party said at the time. But then they, like, in 2000... I forget which year it actually was. It might have been 22 or 23. They kind of like pulled the rug out from everybody and been like, nah, just kidding. We're going to run Joe Biden again. Isn't it great? And then people are like, haha, no, actually, what the fuck are you thinking? And what they were thinking, of course, the Democrats, what they were thinking is the classic liberal abstemiousness mindset. The mindset of being maliciously incompetent because they suffer from the terminal brainworm of assuming that politics is an unchanging matter of, like, I don't know, fucking running an NGO. Democrats treat politics almost like running an NGO. Like, they always treat it like they have less power than they have. And it's sort of like they have this weird end of history, like, obsession. You know, I've mentioned this before, that liberals all to a certain degree think like this, that history is done. We've done all the history that there is, so nothing new is possible. Like, fundamentally, things are always going to stay the same is the logic there. But, like, that's, you know, that in large part plays into the Democrats' thought process on this. They thought, like, don't worry, it's fine. You know, this isn't 1944, so fascism isn't possible again. We have to use it as a political talking point, but, you know, I get the sense a lot of Democrats don't really believe in the threat that fascism poses. to everybody, because it's like, for them, it's literally unthinkable. They don't think that any significant events are any more capable of occurring now. I'm getting bumped as fuck. Oh yay, blue shell. And it's not gonna hit me. Third place. I'm driving okay, despite this being my first session back. Oh. And now, actually, I want to return to something a 1v3 mentioned before, about candidates being really, really old. Remember that video I showed about our American presidents getting old? I will refer back to something I said in that video about candidates being old, and specifically pertaining to the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party is a big tent party that includes elements of the left. The reason that the Democratic Party and to a certain extent also the Republican Party prefers older candidates is because they're always better for guarding the interest of capital, right? If you have a younger, more charismatic candidate, that candidate could theoretically pose a threat to the party infrastructure and the donors that support it. Obviously, both parties rely super heavily on the capital class for their financing, because we don't have public financing of elections, and also we don't have like a socialist party in this country, except for like the Working Families Party. Any socialist groups that we have are like small NGOs that have a political foothold like somewhere. It's either someone who does absolutely nothing or a literal felon. Yeah, because Democrats need to provide the safest, quote-unquote, safest possible option, but it doesn't mean safe for you or for me. It means safe for their donors, safe for the capital class. And that's why you get people like Joe Biden. Joe Biden is fucking ancient. He's been in politics for forever. So they know that he's going to do what the capital class is okay with, and he's not going to violate their interests all that much. That's why you get somebody like him and not somebody like even fucking Julian Castro. I know people in my audience would be like, fucking who? He was a guy that was in the in the primaries last cycle in 2024. He was on the presidential primary stage, and like he was I invoke him mostly because he's kind of an example of the generic Democrat, if that makes sense, right? Like, because he is I don't know how old he's, like 40 something, 50 something. He's certainly not ancient. He might not be the youngest guy in politics, but like somebody like him who has an ounce of charisma in their bones, there's like a certain potential uncertainty that he starts saying something genuinely progressive, that he starts working with people like Bernie Sanders and AOC and Jamal Bowman and all those folks to build working class power, to sort of stand up against corporations in a way that like directly threats their inroads to politics. And so ultimately the calculus there is that they would rather put up Joe Biden and lose than put up somebody like like literally anybody else and run the risk of winning. That's what's going on for the Democratic Party. That's part of why they lose so often, is that they're okay with losing. I'm gonna just start using this here. It's an okay spot to use that. Whoa! Okay, really high air. Ah, a shock. Shock everybody on the bridge. Oh, it's a good thing I threw that backwards and not forwards. Just gotta make sure to not fuck up the ending here. Okay, third place again. My third place streak continues. Now, to answer a probably very obvious question, am I still going to vote for Joe Biden? Obviously, yes, I am. We've been saying this, a lot of people on the left have been saying this for a long time, is that you could hoist a literal corpse onto the stage. Joe Biden could be actually dead. You could be Weekend at Bernieing that shit. And that would still be better than Trump. I would still rather have that than Donald Trump. But here's the thing. We were all being hyperbolic in a way because we hoped that it wouldn't actually come to that. We hoped that the Democratic Party would have any fucking sense in their body to not run somebody who's dying in front of our eyes against Donald Trump, a fascist, a felon, and a sex predator or whatever the fuck, you know? We thought that that was like the most extreme edge case, and even then we were relatively secure in saying, yes, that would still be better than Trump, right? Democrats are testing us on that front, it seems. And like I said, in large part it's because the Democrats ultimately don't care that much if they lose. This is part of why I like. This is part of why I argue in favor of supporting the Democratic Party in some ways as well. Like that you at least vote for them, not like be ideologically in favor of everything that they are, right? Because they're liberals, right? But it's because like they don't want to win. You have to understand when you're fighting against fascism, the fascists want to win, but they're incompetent. The liberals don't want to win. You know? Or at the very least, they don't care enough to win. What is it that, who was it? Marius? It was either Marius or Tiberius Gracchus that said, like, because of, who was it? The reformer that was, like, did the funny dictator gamer move, but, like, for the peasant class. Like, the Roman Republic is still here, but its head is, like, drooping and we are scarce able to hold it up, but without them it wouldn't exist at all or something. I feel like that's the kind of situation that we're in, but not because somebody's actively working to save the republic or whatever, but because both parties are actively working to doom it. And then there are fucking volunteers out there and pro worker orgs doing everything that they can to try to make that not happen. You know, it basically, we have to, in spite of the Democrats' best efforts, make the Democrats win. Because it's clear that their objective here is to lose. At least to me, it's pretty damn clear. I'm just gonna try to maintain this lead. That was really good. See, oh, does he have mushrooms? Maybe. Oh, he didn't. He didn't have mushrooms. Interesting. Okay. Looks like I win this race. Ay, ay, ay. I don't know if I have much more to say on that front. I'm still going to vote for Joe Biden, but it never should have come to this. And when Joe Biden loses, when, not if, when Joe Biden loses or either drops out or, like, chaos ensues, it's going to be entirely on the Democratic Party. This was a decades-long unforced error that like they pushed back on efforts to try to correct this error. When more progressive candidates were running in the 2020 primary, the Democratic Party directed everybody to drop out and endorse Biden specifically. When the 2024 primaries were happening, they reneged on their promise of a one-term Biden presidency and suppressed all the primary debate. Never forget that when the camps start being built or whatever the fuck Republicans have planned starts happening. Never forget that it was liberals that doomed us to this position. Fascists are like an unequivocally evil force of nature. Liberals are the only shield that was presented to us, and their biggest pitch was that, yeah, I'm your only option. And then they did nothing to stop it. Future me cut the segment. Is this actually no, don't yet. Not yet. This is not like the end of America or whatever. Even if America becomes fascist in some shape or form or whatever, like this isn't the end. Politics is a never-ending cycle. It goes on and on. In fact, to assume that this is like the absolute end of everything good or whatever, that's some lib shit, right? Countries have done this dance with death, this dance with fascism before, and come out the other side. And America will too. It's gonna, take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It's gonna take a lot of people down with it, but it's gonna happen, right? It's just part of how history progresses. It absolutely did not need to be this way, and I blame the Democrats for that. And quite frankly, you should too. All right. Now cut the segment. Three red shells. I need a mushroom at this next box. Take the inside box, yeah. Ah, one mushroom. Third place. My streak continues. +2. I'm racing pretty good. Fuck me, dude. As far as predictions go for shit like this, it's honestly up in the air. The media outlets after the debate were all openly talking about the chatter that was going on within the Democratic Party that they might need to have Joe Biden drop out and be replaced with somebody else on the campaign as the candidate, because theoretically they could do that. Remember, the convention hasn't happened yet. Joe Biden is only the presumptive nominee. They could all just decide to have somebody else at the last second emergency meeting, decide to have somebody else as the candidate for 24, and then have all those delegates go to them instead of to Joe Biden, and then that be that, and hopefully be able to pick up the pieces in time for the election to happen. And honestly, I think that would be a better decision than keeping Joe Biden as the candidate that the Democratic Party is going with. They would at least have some time to do the preparation, the training for like media outlets and whatever, and to perform in the next presidential debate. There is going to be, as per American law, there is going to be at least one more presidential debate. I think by law there has to be at least one debate between presidential candidates, and it's hosted by C-SPAN, which is public TV. Oh, I got somebody with, oh, I got him with both of my, traps there. Cool. First place? Yeah! I was pretty close, but yeah. I got it. This is a small room, but it's pretty good. I like the way I'm driving, I like the way other people are driving, too. I'm gonna fast track the fuck out of that segment, by the way. People need to hear that shit. First time chat, Mike. My copyright claim is denied. Welcome to chat. The thing that is the replacement would probably be another centrist. Even that would be better than Biden. You see, here's the thing, right? The thing about having like a no-name centrist replacement, this is important for understanding how political machines work. I get to be academic here. Is that they would basically be an empty suit for whatever the party deems appropriate, right? Joe Biden had some name recognition going into 2020. A no-name centrist would not have the name recognition and charisma necessary to be an operative unto themselves, if that makes sense, right? They would entirely be at the whims of the Democratic Party. Still not great, but better than like an actively decaying Joe Biden. And if the party decides to do something, by some grace of God, if the Democratic Party decides to not be centrist on a certain day, there's not much that a milquetoast centrist candidate would be able to do about it. Because if they're an empty suit kind of centrist, then their job is just to do what the party tells them, and that's pretty much it. And in fact, Joe Biden was the centrist candidate in 2020, and we got not a terrible presidency. It wasn't great, I'm not gonna lie, but there were some good things that happened. A lot of bad shit happened too because of the nature of centrism. But honestly, at this point, as much as everybody rightly was upset about Joe Biden being the nominee and the degree to which the Democratic Party played favorites in 2020, even a regular centrist would be better than Joe Biden now, because it's in the comparison there, it's either you have a centrist that's dying and can't formulate a goddamn sentence and can't function in front of the cameras, or a centrist who isn't dying and is able to read the teleprompter and do what they need to do to, like, I don't know, keep the agenda moving. But your implication there is correct that, like, look, the Democratic Party is always going to prefer the centrist, the do nothing kind of candidates, and that's a huge problem. Because, those are the circumstances that created the now teetering situation that we have. Oh, wow, he got me from the side with that? That's kind of crazy. Ah, dang. They must have remembered what I did to him last time. Oh, they both fell off? Interesting. Oh, that fib. That was a perfect fib. Alright. Use one mushroom here. Oops. And then up, coming up, there's another spot where I want to use another one. Here. Don't land on that. God dang it. Oops. If somebody has a blue shell, now would be a good time. I got too greedy. Yeah, that's on me. I'm still generally satisfied with how I drove that time. Just keep going. Yeah, I don't know how much more there is for me to say. I mean, if anybody has like any questions or thoughts of their own, feel free to chime in. Obviously, we're all cooked like Dallas in EF6. True, that's absolutely true. 100%, we are cooked like Dallas in EF6. At least the Democratic Party is. There's no coming back from this dude. Oh my god. Dude, if they get somebody else, here's the thing too, right? Joe Biden performing so bad in this debate affects down ballot races. You know, people are gonna look at Joe Biden and think Democratic Party, and that's gonna hurt actually competent Democratic candidates that aren't Joe Biden, and that might even be better in terms of what they support ideologically, right? So it's possible that Joe Biden's debate performance on that stage last night, those 2 hours might have fucking sealed America's fate for the next 4 years. Which is really bad, and possibly the biggest. This might actually be one of the single biggest failures of the Democratic Party in any of our lifetimes, which is genuinely impressive if you know what the Democratic Party was like in the 1990s and the 2000s. If somebody has the shock, they're going to use it right here. Okay. Maybe not. Maybe nobody had the shock. What happened to being progressive? What do you mean? I am progressive. Or is that not what you meant? You hardly ever hear about, I'll go wide, you can have the inside lane. Oh, yeah. You hardly ever hear about conservatives calling Biden a commie or anything dumb like that. I mean, Dems in general. Yeah, the Democratic Party, like I said earlier, has a systemic bias against being progressive because they're the party of private capital. And progressive candidates in America range from being social democratic to being overtly socialist, in which either case they pose a threat to the interests of private capital, potentially. So the Democratic Party as an institution is built and like survives on purging them from the ranks whenever it is possible to do so. Now, people in America overwhelmingly are progressive and hate giant corpos. It's just, hard to generate that kind of support without the institution to back you up. And it's hard to, it's hard to get progressives elected regardless for a variety of factors. And so that's why Democrats aren't usually all that progressive. You go to the Midwest, it might be a little bit of a different story. Democrats in the Midwest, on average, are way fucking better than Democrats on the Eastern Seaboard, especially in the Northeast, where the old money controls everything. But then with conservatives not calling Biden a commie anymore, I think that's actually because the Noswell vortex has closed a bit. They've consolidated the narrative, right? To them, it used to be that being liberal was preferable to being a commie, but now conservatives don't care, because either way, they just want to kill all their political opponents, or at the very least kill the degenerates, which includes large swaths of their political opponents. That talking point has kind of fallen out of favor with the conservatives in this country, and the far right and all that, because they have gone with more social politic oriented talking points that the Dems are all gay groomers or whatever and shit like that. Usually that's the main invective that you hear these days, So like all that commie language, it's not as effective anymore. First of all, because the right wing has like consolidated, but then also because a lot of young people are actually commies or progressives or people who would be sympathetic to a socialist cause to begin with, right? And Republicans know that. They are not very good at appealing to a youthful base because their policies fucking suck, and young people know that. But they are good at political maneuvering more so than the Democrats in many cases. So they've kind of elected to avoid that rhetoric rather than actively fixate on it. Does that make sense? Meanwhile, Joe Biden, unforced, will say shit like "I'm a capitalist" and like instantly turn off another 3% of the youth base. So it's an uphill battle. It always has been, and to a certain degree, it always will be until like basically until the revolution happens for progressives, for socialists, for communists, and all the like. We've never had the Democratic Party on our side. In fact, I remember, if you'll indulge me for a little anecdote of following the news ever since I was in college, the first election cycle I was eligible to vote in was 2018, and I remember that being the year of like a pretty big wave of Democrats getting elected, because it was like a lot of people turned 18, and progressive Dems got elected and stuff like that, and I thought it was great, and so did a lot of people. But here's the thing, the Democratic Party didn't. In 2018, the Democratic Party sandbagged progressive campaigns in the primary elections, and to a degree that like they've been known to do. The Democratic Party always sandbags primary challengers, especially if they're progressive, or at least they usually do. But the Republican Party generally doesn't. So the Democrats they ideologically filter their candidates a lot more than the Republicans. They did this in 2018, and then even when the progressive candidates got elected and then were the incumbents in 2020, in 2022, and this year as well, the Democratic Party sandbagged them again. They didn't give them the sort of preference that they usually give to incumbents. They supported their primary opponents that were less progressive than them because they have that ideological preference. You know? It's one of those things where like we can, in some places we can actually use the fact that the Democratic Party is so fucking feckless and incompetent to our advantage, because that allows us to get some foot in the door of the Democratic Party. That allows us to get certain progressives elected, because the Democratic Party is not always good at what they do. But at times it can also work against us, because the only time I've ever seen life in the machine of the Democratic Party is when they are targeting progressives with their campaigns. I actually cannot remember a time when the Democrats were especially active during a general election season. They're not good at creating all that media buzz because they don't care enough. But they really care whenever there's a progressive challenger. So they create that media buzz in the primary cycle. The politicians are useless as usual. However, grifters on the right have done a great job at introducing young men to the red pill. Now they're aligning as conservatives because of that. For as long as the right is trying, they have the upper hand, it seems. It seems so, yes. And part of the reason that is because the right wing has the backing of private capital to do their activist thing, where the backing of private capital that the Democratic Party enjoys is contingent on them not being activists. So, like, private capital is in the ear of both the Democratic and the Republican Party. They're telling the Republican Party, keep going, keep doing this shit. We love that you're doing this shit. Keep being active, keep filtering young guys through the right-wing pipeline. That's great for our interests, and they give them money for that. And then they tell the Democratic Party, yo, keep doing nothing. This is great for us. You know? So that's how that works. And also, I feel like there's also, even outside of strictly what can be explained by capital influence, the Democrats have just been really bad at outreach, really bad at reaching out to the youth vote, because again, like that part of that institutional preference leads to a lot of candidates being way, way older and thinking with a more conventional wisdom-oriented mindset, thus necessarily excluding a lot of young people from their viewpoints and how they want politics to work. There's a genuinely really large amount of ageism against young people in the Democratic Party that creates this sort of disgust and like contempt for the people that prop up the entire fucking Democratic Party. The only reason that the Democratic Party has even won as much as they have is because of young people and how each generation of people is typically more progressive than the last. You know? All that to say that I agree. You know, the progressive politicians, they've been doing all right. I haven't agreed with everything that they've done. You know, you could pick AOC, you could pick Bowman, you could pick Ilhan Omar, any one of the progressive politicians. If we were to really go through the record, I'd find stuff that I disagreed with. But on the whole, they've been pretty good at their thing, at galvanizing people, at generating public support for a certain cause. Bernie Sanders, especially, has such a command over the discourse that a lot of politicians can only dream of. And for what little power they have, they've been killing it. The problem is they don't have all that much power. They're just a small, like, God, how many of them? There can't be more than like a dozen of these progressive politicians in Congress that are trying to actively push the discourse in a more progressive direction. And you know, that's just at a certain level. No matter how good you are at wielding that power, you just don't have enough power to wield to try to challenge the interests of private capital and to try to appeal to young people, because the machine that you're operating within is sort of overpowering you and driving young people away. I had to use it. Excuse me, sir. The worst thing progressives do is overcorrect. The worst liberals do is absolutely nothing, which is far worse. Yeah, that's right. The worst thing that progressives do sometimes is overcorrect. I've seen my share of like some sort of cringy liberal progressive stuff coming from progressives and whatever, where sometimes they'll say stuff that usually I'll agree with ideologically, but you know, maybe it's not a smart political move, or maybe it's just some cringy I'm sorry for being white kind of shit. But yeah, I think I agree that that is like by far and away less bad than what the Democratic Party usually does, which is just nothing at all. You know? Because a lot of times, you know, we actually, I can use an example with Jamal Bowman. He wasn't the most rhetorically effective like that he could have been. He did some things on the campaign trail when he lost his re-election this time that you could safely say, like, you know, maybe that was a mistake. But like ultimately, I think that they like, it's better that he did those things than not. Like when he was getting really animated and getting really like saying swears and stuff, the media, like, of course, tore him apart for that. Which might not have been like the smartest political move for him to do then, but like I still agree with it on some level, because it's like nobody can say that he doesn't care, right? Nobody can say that he's just trying to watch from the sidelines, right? He's not doing nothing. He is trying to do something. You know, more than I can say for the Democratic Party. It's weird when conservatives complain about liberals being in charge of the media when liberals are pretty much center-right. Yeah, well, the reason they complain about it is because conservatives want to kill everybody. Slight exaggeration, but like the conservatives complain that they don't have enough power, that their power isn't literally uncontested. It's some cry-bullying shit, right? Like the whole, you know, oh, they're being so mean to me, when even though the liberal media, like you said, is pretty much center right, and at times I've seen it bend over backwards to be charitable to Republicans in ways that they absolutely don't deserve. There are plenty of moments like that where it's like, you know, scratch a liberal, a fascist bleeds, where liberals are a lot more concerned with the agenda of conservatives than with their own agenda. That's part part of why conservatives have such agenda-setting power, even when they're not in charge of the legislature and whatnot. It's because liberals will just do what they say anyways. Like with Joe Biden and the executive order on the southern border, when he was like, more immigration police, shut down the border and shit like that. That wasn't like a that came from the brains of the Republican Party, and they knew that he would do it because he's a liberal, and you know liberals do that sort of thing. And they just tore him apart for it anyway. And obviously nobody on the left was happy with that. Yeah. It's super frustrating. Give me a box. Oh, we got a full room this time. We got 10 people. Or, you know, not a full room, but a pretty populated room. I'm gonna use this up here, I think. I think that was decent enough usage of that. Oop. Okay. Whoa, okay. That was much closer than I would have liked it to be, but it's okay. We get away with those sometimes. God, this track is so good for when you have a golden mushroom or anything that can go on off-road. Ooh. I like that. Just hope somebody behind me doesn't get a red shell. That would be not good. Yay! Paid off. Alright. I haven't played this in years. Is Peaks still in the pack? Yes, it is. Mushroom Peaks is still in the custom track pack. And I win. In fact, I played it earlier. I think before you came here. We got Mushroom Peaks in this room. I don't know how I feel about Mushroom Peaks still being in the main pack. As opposed to being like a secret track. Honestly, I think it might be a good idea to remove Star Slope as a secret track and have Mushroom Peaks as one of the two secret tracks. And then replace it with something else. Because I think Mushroom Peaks still deserves to be in the pack for the historic value that that it has, but I don't think it should be one of the run-of-the-mill options. You see, somebody just picked it there. I don't think it should be one of the like most readily available options, so that new players don't immediately get put into Kaizo Mario Kart. You know, those are my thoughts on it. I have fun with it, but that's just because I know how to drive Mushroom Peaks, and even to this day, most people don't. You know? And if you drive the full Mushroom Peaks without falling off, then you're basically guaranteed the W, which is it's an interesting dynamic. That's why I think it should still be available, but not like just up front. I don't remember this track super well. We'll see what's going on here. This track is pretty cool, I guess. We gotta just getting away from that guy with the thundercloud. I kind of don't want to be in first, but fuck it. Look, somebody's got to take those blue shells. I'll commit to taking a blue shell. I'm here for a good time, you know. I'm not here necessarily to win. I'm here to have fun. Yep, there's that blue shell. Have a green shell. I hope I don't get comboed, but might be too much to ask. We'll see. Oh, we got rid of my red shell. My red shell is gone. Okay, now I have green shells. Oh, you can trick off those, huh? Okay. Oh, shit. How am I avoiding everything? I haven't really been paying that close attention. I don't know how I'm getting away with this shit. I'm gonna use this here. I walked that Oh, okay, I'll read that in a sec. I remember watching Bean's video in 2009 or whatever, when he was released Peaks to the public. I was insanely hyped to maybe play it someday. I walked that statement back the first time I played it. Yeah, a lot of people feel that way about Peaks, and justifiably so. I remember thinking Mushroom Peaks and all the other custom tracks in the pack were like so cool when I first saw it in, I think 2011 or 12 is when I first got custom tracks downloaded. And then over time I was like, wait, these are actually, as I started to understand more about track design, I was like, wait, these are dumb. And yeah, obviously Peaks wasn't the most fun to play, because like it took me the longest time to figure out how to do those the mushroom sections. It took forever. And there's a very specific way that you're supposed to do it, and it's slightly different on Mach Bike versus on Flame Runner, because Mach Bike is a little bit lighter, Flame Runner is a bit heavier. So you actually get it's a little bit more lenient on the Mach Bike. Flame Runner, you don't get as much air. Bro, who's this guy who keeps picking Mushroom Peaks? Stop it. We already played that one. I guess I can talk about, actually, there's some other stuff that I wanted to mention that was newsworthy, but like, I didn't want to. I'd rather play Nightmare on Sphere. True. Oh god, I remember that track. Or take a cat on a walk in a hailstorm. I would rather play Peaks than take a cat on a walk in a hailstorm. I love my cat. I don't want her to get hurt. I'll just throw this, why not? Fuck it, we ball. No, I missed the mushroom. Dang. Okay. Alright. Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I might have a little bit of breather room to start talking about stuff. Sure, I'll take that Thundercloud. Fuck it. It's only lap 2. Oh, shit, I passed it? That's wild. No, is he gonna pass it? Okay, he didn't have time. I'm only gonna make a segment probably out of the stuff I had to say about the presidential debate, but stuff has been happening since I streamed last, including literally, I think after I stopped streaming, this started, and then like 2 hours later it was done. In Bolivia, some goofy shit has been happening. Bolivia, one of the coolest countries in South America. Yes, I am just saying that because they have a socialist party in charge. You know, sue me. Although I'm sure if I did like research into specifically what policies have been advanced in Bolivia. It's been like, as far as I know, it's been pretty based. A lot of it centering around education and infrastructure in like underserved indigenous communities. But regardless, it's been, I think, the PAS party, right, or something like that. The party of Evo Morales. Of course, he's not the president anymore. It's a different guy, but they're in the same party. And recently there had been some drama in the government about a certain general not quite being as good at his job as they needed him to be. So, Luis Arce, there we go. I believe his name is Luis Arce. The president fired this general, and in response, the general decided to attempt a coup. I haven't gotten an item in forever, by the way. On the government. And it was possibly the goofiest and worst coup attempt that I've ever seen in my life. Like, fucking Latin American general rolls worst coup ever, asked to leave Bolivia. Like, fucking, it was something. It was something for sure. He basically, like, said some shit like, oh, President Arce is a traitor to democracy. I'm gonna go to the palace. And he summoned a bunch of his troops, and he took them to the presidential palace, which is kind of like the White House, but in another country, you see. Very cool. And it's not just white, it's multiple colors. And they sort of stood around outside for like a couple hours. And as they were standing around out there, they weren't really sure what to do. There was protests happening against them because people like the current party that's in power. And the president was naming the replacement for the general. In the building that they were besieging, the president was naming the general's replacement as the general was outside sitting in a tank. I don't know, APC, whatever the fuck. He was in an armored vehicle. He was just chilling there. And then the funniest fucking part is that other military commanders, once the other military commanders were sworn in, they gave his soldiers the order to arrest the general. And that was like the moment for me. I was like, oh my god, he didn't even tell his own men. You know, usually in a situation like this, even when a general like goes fucking rogue or something, you usually like their men will follow them into battle or whatever. There'll be like some sort of charismatic factor there. And they'll be able to at least cause some ruckus in the government. But this time it was literally just him. It was just this General Zuniga. And his men hadn't been given orders. He didn't tell them what their orders were. They didn't know they were doing a coup. And as a result, the general was arrested. Nobody was hurt or even nobody was killed or seriously injured or anything like that. And, you know, no more coup, I guess. Which was incredibly funny. In fact, I believe the coup was orchestrated by I can never do that part. I believe the coup was orchestrated by Elon Musk. The previous coup in Bolivia in 2019 was orchestrated by Elon Musk and the U.S. government, but it didn't really stick. It didn't last very long. It was actually less than a year before Evo Morales was back in charge, or at least his party, if not him directly. And this time, the U.S. government actually, there was no evidence that the U.S. government really had any involvement in the military coup. So it really was just this guy, and then, like, I don't know, maybe Elon Musk a little bit trolling from the sidelines or something. I don't know if even that was confirmed. You know, it might not have been. Oh, okay. I went for it anyways. It would have been great content if I made it, but alas. Okay, they're going for it. Oh, they both missed! Everybody in this room sucks, including me. Let's go. I actually love this. I'm not going to go for that this time. I'm just going to... Yeah. There we go. So that was goofy as hell. I didn't quite do that right. Okay, the shock kind of saved me. Okay, third place. I finally know about that that thing now, that ending route. After the coup was done, I apparently I went online, I learned it had started at like, I don't know, about lunchtime, like 12:30. Um, and then lasted until 4 o'clock. So, fucking no-name general starts a coup on his own, doesn't even tell his men, goes down to the Capitol building, whines a bunch, gets replaced as he's whining, and then his own men arrest him. Flawless, no notes. And as this is happening, the president in the building is talking shit about him. Like, you see, this is an example of why I fired him. He just doesn't have the sauce, or some shit like that. You know, literally telling him you're not him as you're arresting him, which is fucking great. His ass is not beating the cringe allegations. Lava Lake. I think I like this one. This is yeah, this is not Lava Road. This is Lava Lake. It's a cool track. Sometimes track names are similar and I get them confused. Ah! This wasn't the greatest time to use that. I should have used it, yeah, up here. How'd he do that? Oh, that guy took the shortcut, okay. What? I thought I pow dodged. Also, I got bumped. I don't know if the pow dodge would have even saved me there because of how hard I got bumped. Alright, give me this. I will chain this. Hope for a shock dodge, maybe? Well, I have the shock. That's pretty cool. Bro, if you have a dodge item, you should use it. Use it! Okay. The bullet bill. I'm gonna use this at the shortcut this time. Even if it's short, it'll get me a lot of ground. Watch. Just gonna try to take me to first. Alright, I gotta go around, but that's fine. Ah. That was a good target shock. It wasn't the, like, most optimal target shock. I think it is theoretically possible to get somebody in the tiny little gap between the ramp and the next part of the road there. But that was pretty good. They got me right after the ramp. Which meant I wasn't able to really take the, I wasn't really able to get the boost. Holy shit, how did I make it through all that? Fuck it. Okay, we're not getting this guy, but... second place? Alright. Oof. What a race. What a race indeed. Feels good to be back, honestly. 10 players, sure. Oh yeah, I also saw this morning about the Supreme Court. More Perfect Union, my go-to for news. Breaking: the Supreme Court has just ruled 6-3. Infinite guesses as to who was the six and who was the three. That it is legal to criminalize homelessness. The court sided with an Oregon town that made it illegal to camp in public, overturning a decades-long precedent that says criminalizing homelessness is a cruel and unusual punishment. In fact, if I remember right, when they were hearing this case, this specifically criminalizes homelessness, not public camping. They said, oh, if you have a house to go back to, that's fine. If you don't have a house, then you can't camp in public. You can pitch a tent for a night or whatever and sleep in the woods or something like that. But if you're sleeping on the park bench, then we'll arrest you. Which is specifically targeted against homeless people. Love me some neoliberalism. This is one aspect in which many liberals and conservatives will actually agree, despite the fact that all three of the liberal justices ruled against this case. A lot of liberal state governments and conservative state governments will take this sort of attitude that fundamentally homeless people are like degenerates because they're unsightly, and that will foster more crime in the city or something like that. So they will often have the police come in and do like purges of the homeless population, which is fucked up. Or like, I say purges. They'll clear out the homeless population and like forcibly move them somewhere else. It has been known to happen that like obviously homeless people get subjected to a much greater degree of police brutality than non-homeless people because they don't have any of the legal preference that being a proprietor would afford you. Alright. Getting blue here is actually pretty alright for me. Oh, okay. Oh, what a target shock. Oh my god. They must know about that shortcut then. Give me this item. I didn't mean to do that. Please don't let this be a fake item box. Okay, thank fuck. Bullet bill, that's fine. Coming up on the side. I would rather be in this position. Okay, never mind. Oh, what? Okay. You'll say about to get a new nomadic subsection? Yeah, basically. Either that or we're going to witness a massive rise in death from homelessness, you know? A lot of homeless people were already living on the brink of death because the elements can be cruel. This is ultimately the only thing that this accomplishes is killing homeless people. I don't dare be too hyperbolic, but I might, depending on the details, it might be comparable to how the European countries treat the Romani and other nomadic peoples. You know? But, that's what the Supreme... that vote is very complexing to me, like perplexing, like confusing. It shouldn't really be. A lot of conservatism, right, and a lot of liberalism even. The foundational beliefs of a lot of conservatives in this country, which includes the court justices. Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. Look, words are hard. I struggle with words. a lot of the worldview of the Supreme Court justices, especially the six who voted to do this in this case, like the conservative justices, is just founded on the contempt for people who are in some way disempowered, which includes the poor. So, like, contempt for the poor, contempt for racial minorities, contempt for the queer community, contempt for, like, women is largely what forms the worldview of conservatives and these conservative justices particularly. So it really, they're only ruling this way because they hate the homeless. Like that's the motivating factor here. You know, it's one of those things that I used to, when I was in government class, when I was learning about this shit, I would fail to understand it because I always assumed that something more complicated was at play. It's not always super complicated why people in politics choose to do the things that they do or choose to vote the way they do on certain things. A lot of them are just despicable human beings with who want the world to be you know, a cesspool of like evil. That's ultimately, like, as hyperbolic as the language sounds, that's the motivating factor for the Supreme Court justices here. They just hate the homeless. They hate the poor. And I think you can in some way, like, juxtapose that to the way the liberal justices ruled here too, because I know one of the liberal justices was actually a career advocate for the poor. One of the people that voted against this ruling was a public defender, like an attorney for the poor, when she wasn't a Supreme Court judge, and then the other two are at least somewhat more friendly to the interests of people who are disenfranchised, at least in some ways. You know, they have like a history of not absolutely hating everybody who is downtrodden. What did that break on? I don't know what that broke on. Ooh, good target shock. Good target shock. He's gonna pass me now, I think. Yeah. A bunch of people gonna pass me now. Oh, I didn't get an item. Rip. No, I'm dead. Ah! Mario Karted at the very end. Oh, boy. Yep, that's it. Rip. I was actually hoping that the guy would pass me before the blue shell reached me. That's what, I mean, hope as a tactic is very flawed strategy, but, you know. If that happened, I think I was sitting pretty... I should have just waited at the base of the ramp there, but look, hindsight is 2020. It's hard to see into the future, and you know, it's also hard to have that kind of view in the moment. You know what's fascinating to me is that on economic issues like this, most people are pretty in lockstep. The U.S. is a very socially progressive country. If you're looking at like opinion polls on certain issues, right? Like the majority of people in this country hold very progressive views. It's even more so the case when you ask them about certain economic issues. Even Republicans don't really like this stuff. Like they don't see what's in it for them, even if they're purely taking a self-interested perspective, right? Uh, that's one of the reasons that like it's so jarring to me that the Democratic Party doesn't hone in on these issues a lot more. You know, helping the homeless, building affordable housing, those are slam dunk policies, right? And you know, especially when the Republican Party has actually made their economic mainstay uh, being in favor of child labor. You know, a lot of states that have the Republican Party in charge have rolled back protections for kids in the workplace, and we've started seeing incidences of kids dying in assembly lines, like you would hear out of the 1920s. I don't know if that's an Imposter Twister DX or not, but I remember his Mario Kart Wii vids from 15 years ago. I don't know, it might be them. I've certainly seen them every now and again in CTGP rooms and stuff. Enough to recognize them, that is. Just from racing here. Oh. Most people became centrist not to cause drama, I guess. Most people don't like really make conscious choices about their ideology. The vast majority of people in America are socially progressive when you ask them about insert issue here. If you ask them about their political convictions, they're dumb as a cat, right? There's a distinct lack of class consciousness in the United States, or political consciousness of any kind, such that, you know, the average American is stupid. I assure you they're not, like, being centrist to, like, avoid drama or something. They're centrist because they're idiots. Most Americans are socially progressive. Big doubt on that. There's a litany of data charts that I can show you that would prove that I'm correct on this. More Americans support the right to gay marriage than Europeans do, if you take a look at any given European country. More Americans support interracial integration than Europeans, and you could take that stat from any European country. More Americans support the rights of women in the workplace than Europeans do. You could ask about like abortion and certain stuff like that. Even though abortion rights policy making is much more advanced in Europe than in the United States, more people in the United States are progressive on that than people in Europe. I've seen the data tables myself. I can pull them up if need be. But it's not like this isn't a question. You know? Like, even really, like, people who would be pretty racist against black people in the United States are not as racist as the average person in Europe is as against Romani. Okay. In fact, let me look that up right now. How people around the world view same-sex marriage. This was... When was this done? June to September 2023. Okay. Americans, somewhat in favor or strongly in favor. That's 63%. The only countries that are more progressive than us are Italy, the UK, Germany, France, Spain, the Netherlands, Sweden, and Canada. Everywhere else lags way far behind. Well, Australia, too. I should ask Australia. Japan is theoretically more progressive, but that's just because the somewhat in favor is 56%, and strongly in favor is only 11%. So definitely up there on gay marriage. What about let's see, not same-sex marriage. Let's say trans rights. Are there really not any? God damn. Here, hold on. On racism. Fuck, I'm gonna have to come back to that. The race is starting. Let me put it this way: there are some very compelling reasons that the Republican Party, even in the United States, has to somewhat now, and especially had to in years prior to now, at least allude to being socially progressive and accepting of gay people, women, and even trans people, where the far right had to do no such thing in Europe, because Europe was way more primed to be accepting to that kind of rhetoric. Once this race is done, I'll go back to looking for those tables. And in fact, a lot of the people that are against same-sex marriage in that poll, I've seen other polls to this effect as well. A lot of people who are against same-sex marriage would say, like, yeah, I don't think it's morally right, but it should be legal because that's not my decision. Like, that's somebody else's life, not mine. You know? Ooh. That's a good shock for me, I think. In fact, I could put it another way that'd be even funnier. Ask the average American their opinion on the black community, and then ask the average French person their opinion on Germans. Probably the funniest way I could make that point, so maybe I'll leave that there until after this race. Ah, nice try, Bowser. Oh no, he got me. Sixth place? Not bad. That's fine. Race relations. Does this show what I'm hoping for it to show me? Does it show other countries? No. It's not. This is just a... Wow, tables, 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 tables. Thank you, Gallup. On diversity... Ah, here we go. Pew Research Center. On diversity, many Europeans are less positive than Americans. Americans are more likely to say growing diversity makes their country a better place to live. 58% to 7% say it's worse, and 33% say doesn't make much difference. Versus the next country is Sweden. Only 36% say diversity makes Sweden a better place to live, and 26% say it makes it a worse place to live. The least bad place is Spain, where only 22% say that diversity makes their country a worse place to live. Versus 7% in America. Holy shit, Greece is not beating the racism allegations. 63% of Greeks responded that diversity makes Greece worse. God damn. So there you go. You ever watched Peter Santanello's videos? I don't think so. I do not believe that I have. No, I've tried to put too much sauce on it. All right. Need to get an item. That's what I need. Outblock. Makes pretty much a mini documentary series on different regions in the United States. Oh. Okay, that sounds interesting. Although, I don't know if there's much for me to gain about that, because I know quite a bit about different regions of the U.S. Give me this. Yes. Okay. Golden mushroom. That's a good thing to get right here. I'm just kind of following that Peach player. Oh, okay, target shock. Oh, okay. Oh, shit. I'm gonna use this here. Whoa, what the fuck? I got stuck. Okay. Give me this item. Okay, that's perfect. Oh, shit. That's fine, I'm still getting second. Whew. Good race. Good race. Let me look this guy up. Peter Santanello. Yep. Audio started playing. Inside America's corruption capital, Washington, D.C. Clash of rich and poor. Life on the edge of the Everglades. Road trip through forgotten Hawaii with local OG. America's most expensive state, also Hawaii. Homesteading in the jungle. Okay, yeah. Like pop geography stuff. Pretty cool. Alabama's biggest secret, Operation Paperclip. A lot of this is stuff that I already know about, funnily enough. Seems cool. I don't know how academically rigorous his material is. I don't know how many, like, if he makes any informational claims, if he cites sources and things like that. Yeah, sure. You know, he's also a big channel, so I don't want to do, like, content stealing or something. I've been thinking about doing some content reacts. That debate was interesting. That debate was agonizing, is what it was. You'll see a segment from me about it in a bit. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to fast track that that segment, because I've ranted about it for quite a while at the beginning of stream. But yeah, interesting is a very, like, put the silencer on the gun to moderate your language kind of way of putting it. I'm not American, so I don't really care. Well, you should care, because American politics matter for everywhere else in the world, too. It means that the Liberal Party is going to get blown the fuck up in the elections, because Joe Biden did it fucking horribly. Yeah. Think of it this way. If a lot of your politics revolve around being, like, pro-EU or anti-Russia, or something like that, then this is really bad for you guys, because Donald Trump, one of his biggest selling points is that he's just going to abandon Europe, pretty much. And he alluded to that several times in the debate. And Joe Biden did literally nothing to challenge him, because Joe Biden was having a hard enough time just standing up. There's no real academic presence in this videos, mostly just to expose different viewpoints, try to be unbiased. So, like, interviews and stuff. Oh, that could be cool, then. Yeah. I guess it's kind of hard to consistently produce content like that if you're doing, like, a lot of academic, using a lot of academic articles. Because that shit takes a long time to read and take notes from. But it is something that I'm interested in, as boring as it might seem. But that seems cool too. There's definitely been some very cool journalistic stuff that people have done that I've been appraised of. And certainly it does help pique my interest as well that he looks at a lot of things from like a class perspective, like where he talks about living conditions for some of the poorest people in the poorest regions, where, you know, states that are really expensive to live in, and stuff like that. Talks about, you know, Washington D.C. being the corruption capital of America, which, you know, he's not wrong in any way really there. The only nitpick I would be able to have is that maybe there's one, in parentheses, one city that's like somehow has more corruption, but, you know, that's a hard thing to prove and ultimately a nitpick. So yeah, probably won't get much out of it. Maybe not, but, you know, look, I appreciate the recommendation either way. It's interesting to it's good to see like what certain people are interested on YouTube. You know, how did I get to second place? I thought I was driving like absolute shit this race. I guess not. And I got second. Sick. Oops, wrong thing. Let me just go to history. Wait, it would be right there. Yeah, okay, look. There we go. Cool. I'll do probably one more race, and then I'll be done. Exploring wealthy Alabama. This actually does seem like cool content. The poorest region in the Deep South, Mississippi Delta. Ex-Mormon speaks out. Why did he leave? I'm thinking it could be the... Oh, what's up? Joe Biden's like the old sports team owner that refused to step away and is holding everything back in the process. The majority wants him gone. Yeah, and I think that's like... This isn't something that I can put entirely on Joe Biden. Certainly him being obstinate and unwilling to step aside is one thing. But I think the Democratic Party has had a large hand in like making him the only candidate available. And so that is like unforgivable from the Democrats. But yes, broadly, it's like if the sports owner in this case is a fusion of Joe Biden and the Democratic Party machine, then that's absolutely what's happening. Because it's like they keep losing. He's like got no juice left in him. Everybody wants him gone, and they just won't let him leave. The like, I don't know, the company or whoever, like the party just won't let him leave. I think it could be the corruption capital of the U.S. would be Baton Rouge if we want to go that route. Yeah, sure, maybe. You know, there are some fucked up things that happen in the Deep South for sure. You know, even like, which would I think for some people would make the wheeling and dealing that goes on in DC even look tame by comparison. You know, like how I think a little while ago, gosh, there was that story about how like the police were just straight up killing black people in I think Alabama, and then like covering it up. And like that's just a thing that happens. Like there are still sundown towns in the US. You know, which is fucked up. You know, I know I just got done saying that Americans are on the whole are more progressive than anybody else in the world by comparison for the most part, but you know, there's still a lot of problems, and obviously, you know, the Deep South is not a shining bastion of progressivism, shall we say. Please don't go for me. Yes, it's going for him. Perfect. Hurricane Katrina evacuation debacle. Oh yeah, there. It's so fucked up. There are regions of the American South that have still not recovered from Hurricane Katrina, and that was 19 years ago. Hurricane Katrina was 19 years ago. I was 5 years old when that happened, and there are some places that still haven't recovered because ultimately it was way more profitable to let the problem fester and to not like invest in those communities, to not rebuild, and to just like keep extracting wealth out of the region and shit. Like there wasn't enough of a profit incentives for a lot of companies to invest in the Deep South and rebuild after Hurricane Katrina. And the federal government couldn't and didn't want to rebuild because like the machine of privatization and neoliberalism had basically gutted all of the public means of rebuilding and stuff. Everything was like done by contractor. So it just, nothing got fixed. And in fact, for all the ways in which America is actually a pretty good place to live, one of the shittiest things about America is the infrastructure. A lot of places in America are actually severely underprepared for most of the stuff that climate change would theoretically throw at us. Or not even theoretically, that it will throw at us. That didn't go for me. Okay. Worth it. Worth it. That's way better than having gotten hit by that red shell. I wasn't alive when it happened. It was pretty bad. I mean, hey, New Orleans Saints were doing well pretty shortly after. Who cares, right? Yeah, I mean, that was the mindset. Yeah, I know. I can read the sarcasm in that. It's appreciated, though. You know, it's hard to tell sarcasm over text. Yeah, that was the mindset after Hurricane Katrina. Like, the government didn't have, like, the resources itself to rebuild, which is absolutely shameful for the wealthiest country in the world. And that was because of, like, neoliberal policies from both the Democrats and the Republicans in the past, like, 25 years at that point, had gutted the state's ability to do anything with the public sector. Meanwhile, the private sector wasn't interested in rebuilding because there wasn't as much money to be made as they would have liked there to be. So they just didn't rebuild. And a lot of people's lives were destroyed forever. And we're going to have storms that are on average worse than Katrina within my lifetime when climate change starts making things way, way worse. It already has started. The heat wave has posed some very serious problems for the eastern seaboard of the U.S. And again, we're starting to see some of the failures of the state to deal with that because they've let a lot of corporations get away with like some insane shit. There are some states like Florida where the corporations are not even legally obligated to give you a fucking break from the heat. Places where it's 100 degrees outside, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which would be about what, 40 degrees Celsius. You know, and there are companies that are just allowed to tell you to work outside all day, which is fucked up. 37 degrees Celsius is 100 degrees Fahrenheit. No, it'd be 38, actually. Right? 37 degrees is like 98 point something, because that's internal human body temperature. It's hotter than that. And when I say 100, I mean more like 110. You know, I think in Maine last week. So this is like the northernmost part of the main body of the United States on the East Coast. In the state of Maine last week, it reached 110 degrees Fahrenheit, which is actually more than 40 degrees Celsius. Yo, what's up? Oh, shit. I'm talking shit and getting hit. I think that's going to be the last race for me today. Pretty good session, all things considered. Kind of tapered off at the end, but that's all good. Look, it was my first session back. And alright. Good games all. Which 37.9. See, let's see what is 38 is 100.4. Yeah, so close enough. Worst place to live in terms of temperature has to be the Canadian Prairie next to the Rockies. Yeah, because there's like no moderating force there. On the East Coast, there's water nearby, which like sort of creates a moderate temperature environment. But in the Great Plains, in the Canadian Prairie, in the prairies in the U.S. as well, you're a lot further away from water, so it gets hot as balls during the daytime and really cold at night. And that's in like the more temperate seasons. In summer, it will be deathly hot during the daytime, and then in the winter, yeah, like negative 90 degrees Fahrenheit wind chills. It is so bad. And that's actually, believe it or not, that's also where you get a lot of extreme weather. You get tornadoes there. Although we might start getting some tornadoes on the East Coast soon enough. I don't know if you have heard, but Tornado Alley is actually shifting to the east because of climate change. So we might start getting some of that shit here. Do you like communism? Yes. You may notice by the aesthetic on my channel that, yeah, I am a communist. Unfortunately, you've caught me at the end of the stream. If you want to talk more about that, maybe come back next time, and I will definitely I'll have some more to say. You can see Calgary from a stupidly long distance away if you approach from the prairies. Have you ever spoke to people who lived in communism? Yes, I have. And communism is not a system that has ever existed in the world, because it is a philosophical ideal state. If you wanted a more accurate description of what I am, you could probably try socialist. But a lot of the communist countries, of which you would allude to, are actually just a slightly different kind of capitalist. Communism, contrary to the retarded person's belief, of course, is not when the government does stuff. It is rather when the means of production are owned in common by a single class of people, a hybrid worker-owner class. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union and all their compatriots were sitting there with their thumb up their ass doing capitalism, but instead it's the state that owns the capital instead of a capitalist class. Or rather, it's like, instead of market capitalism, it's just state-directed capitalism. Which is not communism, I must say. And they've actually... The Soviet Union and China and Cambodia, it's an interesting perspective. That's the correct perspective. Anything else is wrong. The Soviet Union and China and Cambodia and all of their contemporary so-called communist states have done irreparable damage to leftist movements, to communist movements, to socialist movements, because communism and socialism are all about democracy, extending democracy to the workers. I ask you, was there any such worker democracy in the Soviet Union, in Cambodia, in Vietnam, in China? No. Ergo, no socialism, no communism. But there are plenty of people who call themselves communists and socialists who do not care for the ideology of socialism or communism, who are, wolves in sheep's clothing. They're just fascists with a different coat of paint. I'm not one of them, thankfully. Anyways. Initially, I thought you were one of those people. Well, oh, okay. Well, then I'm happy to lay those concerns to rest, Certainly, I have no shortage of sympathy for people who lived in the former, communist bloc and whatever. Because living conditions were absolutely rancid there. And I think there are some countries that have gotten very close to socialism. There are some countries in Latin America that have been able to do genuinely very impressive things with little resources, which I think to me gives some very good signs of hope that socialism is a good system if there are people committed to advancing the interests of the workers rather than sort of co-opting the labels and the aesthetics to fit their own ends. Think about the book 1984, and is INGSOC actually a socialist party? No, right? It's just the party that cares for itself. They are the class on top, and then they have the proles on the bottom, right? If you had a society that had genuinely moved past capitalist relations and become socialist, you would be able to see that in the way the economy is organized. Things would be more democratic. There wouldn't be this distinct class of people on top that own and control everything. It would be a democracy. There wouldn't even necessarily be any one person in charge, right? which again, very difficult thing to achieve. I'm not gonna like pretend that it's easy or anything, but yeah. Anyways, yeah, Cody Schwab's live? Sick. Let's raid Cody. Anyways, thanks for coming in. I appreciate everybody who stopped by to watch today. You'll see that segment from me very soon. Time to cry in a corner now because America is fucked. And look, for anybody that's genuinely like despairing over this, look, whatever. Bad shit happens a lot in politics, and bad shit's happening right now. But you got to understand, this is how politics has always worked. This is actually one of the benefits of having a socialist lens of analysis, is that you got to understand that all of history progresses according to certain material interests. There are different groups that have different material interests, and there are times when one of those groups is more successful than the others. Right now, we're in a phase of time where the workers don't have very much of a block with which to realize those interests, but capital does. And fascists have decided to be that vessel, right? Like the fascist interests are sort of, they have an edge right now. And there have been other times in history where that has been the case. It would be it fascism or other kinds of reactionaries or people that are just downright evil. There have been times where those interests have had the edge. And there have been times where genuine, like, good change has happened and where revolutionary people's movements have had the edge. We're just not in one of those times. We have to, buckle the fuck up and get ready to, get our hands dirty, basically. I'm politically active. I do volunteer work and stuff like that. And that's part of how you try to make things better. So, look, it's tempting to go cry in a corner. But ultimately, this sort of stuff just happens. It's water under the bridge. People's lives get harder. People's lives get easier. Hell, sometimes a lot of people die because of a really fucking evil movement coming to power. I'd love to hear what you have to say about Hassan, lol. My thoughts on Hassan are very conflicted, but you'll have to wait till next stream to find that out. Regardless, don't use hope as a tactic, because that'll lead you into these situations much more often. Look, better things are always possible, even when it seems like fucking it's Jover, the West has fallen, billions must die even. That's just how history plays out. It goes in cycles, and sometimes those cycles are more or less similar to one another. Just do what you can, and I think you'll be satisfied with the result either way. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'm going to raid Cody Schwab now. I'll see you guys next time. My copyright claim's denied. Make sure to come back next time. Ask me about Hassan again, because I don't have any more time today. So.